Welcome back, you wonderful humans, to the Canadian podcast portal to DJs, producers, electronic music, the industry, the stream, the dance floor, and everything that goes bump in the night. We are recorded live at Pod 6 Studios with the efforts of our producer Dan Rice and wizard engineer Rob. My name is Jello, your host and Digi Sherpa for our audio and video storied experience. I made the attempt to book our guests in the podcast during season 1, but scheduled stuff got in the way, and I'm stoked that it's happening today. That rhymes! I'd label him as a biz virtuoso for electronic music in Canada. A DJ, a producer, a remixer, a music label operator with M5, and a promoter. And I could be leaving tags out, but with this intro, perhaps by the time our session is complete, he'll have added the details and corrected me. As a DJ and performer, seamlessly weaving genres is his specialty, and it's evident when listening to his jams. He's got tracks and remixes signed to labels such as D-Tone, Frequenza, Original Label, Nice&Smooth, Ultramedia, and more, and has been contributing to our culture and scene for decades. His insight is valuable, and I'm excited to jump in, or as I'd lovingly refer to as jumping down, nearly 14 feet underground in Utility Room with Chris Hughes.
How are we doing today?
Welcome to the show.
Nice to see you again.
You too. How long's it been?
Oh, geez. We seem to bump into each other at least once a summer.
But the summers have been gone. I was just saying that the 2 years, it felt like 10.
I'd say it's probably been 2018 was the last time I saw you. One of the Electric Islands.
Okay.
2017 maybe.
I feel like and I can never remember this space. There was a space that was around the corner from the old Comfort Zone, and it was an upstairs location. It was just slightly down Spadina from college. One loft.
Yeah. It's now the Skyflower.
What's Skyflower? Is this a new venue?
Well, they've renovated it, put a restaurant on the rooftop.
Oh, wow.
Patio, everything.
Is it still a nightclub downstairs with that sound system from Angel Maurice?
No, I don't think so.
Whatever happened to that sound system?
I don't quite know.
I mean, I get that it was tuned to that room, but I mean, quick tuning.
I hear that someone has it.
Okay.
And that at some point it will be put back into a venue in Toronto.
Right.
And I've spoken to the person. They said when they do it, I'll get to go and help them tune it, because I was one of the last people to actually work on it. So
wow.
It will apparently be coming back. But with what's been going on and everything, venues are kind of in flux. I wouldn't want to make that decision right now myself. You know,
I'm not sure. I feel like it's the opposite of that. I feel like there's a lot of new venues that are popping right now. Mm-hmm. Like places that I'd never even heard of.
Oh,
and the amount of independent promoters that have sprung up makes me think that it's 1996 or 1997 right now. Like that's the vibe. And the irony about that is that in the late 90s, and I've talked about this on the podcast, the meatpacking district in New York City, that was a hotspot.
Oh yeah.
And now here we are in Toronto, 30 years later.
Yeah.
And it's the meatpacking district in Toronto is popping right now.
Yeah, okay. I didn't think about it that way. I was just looking at it more from the investment side of things. Is it a time in history when you want to invest, say, thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars into something that could get government shut down at any point? Like, I don't know. Like, I'd still wait a few more months before making that decision.
Are people ready to go back out?
Oh yeah, obviously.
Okay.
Obviously, yeah. There's.
Are you ready to go back out?
I have tickets for the next Electric Island in 4 weeks. That's the first thing I plan to do. But
big outdoors.
Yeah, big outdoor thing, just to sort of jump back into it. And then summertime, yeah, we'll be doing a whole bunch of things. But right now, nightclubs, just with the way that I'm employed, it's I can't really afford to get sick. Mm-hmm. So this is a reality that we all live with right now. It's not. It's not a fear decision. Well, I guess it is. But
no, well, I mean,
I'm precariously employed. My girlfriend's precariously employed. We both work in the service industry. Anything can happen there. So taking chances like I used to when I was in my 20s is just not something I'm willing to do, I guess, at this point. So yeah, call it apprehension, call it what you want. Working on the label still, definitely every day. So I'll get back out in the clubs. Is
your time, is it split that way? Like how,
Yeah.
So your typical day from Monday to Friday is you're locked till 5, and then after that, like you get home, you do the food, and then
turn on the gear and just start working on the label, start trying to get tracks in, start producing. Like it's always been that way since I was about 23, 24. I've always worked a day job and then come home at night, worked another 6, 7 hours on whatever I was doing.
This is passion driven.
Always, yeah, has to be.
What is the submission process like for someone to submit music to M5?
It can go one of a couple of ways. Producers that I've known forever, like Jason Spanu, who you had here last night, he can send me anything however he wants. Like, he can call me up on the telephone and be like, I'm making this, and just play it, and I'll be like, yeah, send it over when you're finished.
Okay.
People from overseas I've never met. There is a demo submission process through our website. You go to m5.com, look at the demo page, and you can submit anything you want. I get it directly.
Right.
Whether or not I respond positively or negatively just depends on the music that gets sent to me.
Right.
I'm never one to just laugh somebody off. I don't think that's the correct way to be when someone's submitting music to you.
Is that happening?
I see people do it all the time where, you know, they'll get something for their label. They'll be like, what the hell does this person think they're submitting?
But that won't be the reply that they output.
Sometimes it is.
No.
Yeah, I've seen it happen. They learn from that mistake. It is always a mistake when you do that to somebody. Try to be as constructive as you can with somebody, even if they're sending you something that has nothing to do with what you're doing. Tell them that. Just say, hey, you know, maybe next time take a moment to listen to what we're doing, and if you do want to submit in that genre, go right ahead. This just isn't it. But, you know, suggest a few places they could send it, because maybe they don't know.
What would be the benefit for somebody to release on the label rather than self-releasing?
We have access to 60-odd stores. So when you're self-releasing, you're usually doing it through Bandcamp or through DistroKid at Beatport, which leaves you only with those two outlets. Having 60 outlets, multiple language platforms. I mean, we're on Tencent in China, we're on TikTok, we're on Savin, sorry. We were on UMA in Russia until very recently, but the sanctions have affected that.
Wild.
Yeah, it's weird. I woke up one morning and there was 3 stores removed from our storefronts, and they were all the Russian stores. So our distributor is actually going ahead with that and actually going to honor the sanctions. So that does take away our entire Russian base, which kind of makes me sad. No matter what you think about warfare, music is music, and not everybody is going to be pro that. And I don't know, why can't we just still listen to music in amongst all of it, you know?
Right.
It does sadden me to see that happen, but I understand why. Yeah, so I would say the amount of reach that we get as a label is far greater than you're going to get through Bandcamp or Beatport until you grow your base. There is a point at which label doesn't make sense to an artist. You know, like a Deadmau5, it doesn't really make sense for that guy or a Richie Houghton to be submitting to other labels. They have millions of followers. They can just sort of put one thing out to their follower base, make a bunch of money, make a bunch of new fans, and that's it. So there is a point in the market now where labels, they are going to leave us behind. Artists are going to be like, okay, I've got my own following, I have my own thing, you no longer serve us.
Do you have any relationships with producers on your label right now who have achieved a form of acclaim or a level that is awesome sauce, but they're still like running with you?
Yeah, there's a couple actually. I mean, rest his soul, Angel Maurice was that for us. He was submitting me tracks and didn't have to. Angel could send tracks wherever he wanted, and people would accept them. So he was actually a guy that sent tracks to his friends, people that he liked, and would continue to do so regardless of what other people thought of you or the diminutive stature that other people thought you had in the scene. Angel didn't care. He would, you know, he was great that way. So he was one, and then there's a couple more that I have currently that, yeah, they've grown beyond what I can do for them, but they still submit music.
That's awesome. You know, it's funny.
And it's about music for them. It's really just about the relationships.
Where's the AM/PM label? This is a house music label. Remember this label?
Yeah, it was a great label.
Was that from the UK?
I think it was, yeah.
You know, and that's the first time that I'd heard or read Angel's name.
Yeah?
Yeah, well, because he had done remixes and releases on that label. Yeah. And then later on, learning that he was native to Montreal, I was like, the fuck?
Yeah.
You know, and I think that's one of the really cool things about music labels is that it still is a great way to learn about an artist.
Angel brought the Paradise Garage experience to Montreal when he was building Stereo. I talked to him about it the year or two before he passed, and I asked him, like, because I just wanted to know everything I could, learn everything I could from the man during the time that I was working with him. So
right.
I asked him, what was it like, you know, working with Frankie Knuckles, and like, what was it like working with Larry Levan, and like, and he told me stories about, you know, being an 18-year-old kid at Paradise Garage, and having them turn the system on, then turn the fan and the smoke machine on, and all of a sudden there's a tornado in the middle of the room, and I'm like, I can't even imagine that. And he's like, oh yeah, you'd sit up top in the rafter on top of the speaker and just look down and see this huge smoke tornado. And I'd be like, I can't imagine this, you know? And he's like, yeah, when they turn it on with the club full, he's like, everybody's just going crazy. Angel would make you feel like you were at the Paradise Garage with him reliving that experience. So he brought that to stereo. He tried to bring that everywhere he was. Yeah, and to learn how much he touched this country, yeah, it's unreal. Like, everybody has a good story about, like, a fun, positive story about Angel.
Awesome.
Yeah.
All right, I've got a bunch of questions I got to ask you.
Sure.
So let's kick in. The first one is house or techno?
That's tough. I'm going to go, this is blasphemy at this point in history, but I say both. Combine them wherever you can. Tech house, all right?
Why is it blasphemy?
Because tech house is a dirty word these days in our scene. It really
Is it?
Yeah.
How did it get there?
It got there just oversaturation. There's so many people doing it that there's a critic base that's like, it's no longer a viable genre. I don't believe that. I believe that there's a sweet middle ground between techno and house that is our mainstream. Like, that is where everybody sort of lives. Nobody, you go to a full techno party, like, there's not a lot of people there. They're well attended, but you go to a tech house party where the music is actually good, where the producers are really thinking and really, you know, considering the patterns, the dancers, everything else. These are electric islands. You know, there's 7,000-8,000 people. There's just more of a mass appeal when you combine both the genres. I think you also get all the hardcore fans from the techno side, all the hardcore fans from the house side. At heart, though, I did get into this with house music. Back in the middle of the 80s with songs like Work It to the Bone, Marshall Jefferson. So I have a real strong affinity for house and will always play little bits of it, even into like a really fast techno set. You'll always hear me play little house samples here and there. But combine them wherever you can. You know, mix the genres. Throw in some breaks, throw in some jungle, like do whatever you can. Don't stick to just one.
If you could play at any venue here in Toronto, not just the clubs, I mean literally any venue, what would it be?
That's a tough one. But I'd probably say, I'd say the CN Tower. It's a toss-up. Rogers Center, CN Tower.
Fucking A.
Yeah.
I agree with you.
Yeah.
That's a spot.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you know about the Atlantis party?
Oh, I do. And that's why I say that, because I came into the scene maybe a month after that party happened.
No.
And you guys were still buzzing. Like, the entire Toronto scene was still talking about that.
Yeah.
And I kept, did you go? No. I didn't.
Right.
And I had to hear from hundreds of people
Yeah.
about this event a month after it happened.
Right.
So, yeah, that's always stuck in the back of my mind that I didn't get to go. I came 30 days too late.
I didn't go to the first Science Center party.
Oh?
No, I missed that. I think I was at the second, third, and then I played the fourth, but yeah, I didn't. I missed it, and I know, like, to this day, people are still talking about that party.
The Science Center one, yeah.
Right. Same as I think it might be Christian Island. Was that on the native reservation for Wemph?
Oh, I didn't go to that.
And that too is also
Yeah,
a legendary jam. You know, I was away. At that point.
Was that the tornado one?
No, that's the first one. That's Destiny 10.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah, that I was there for.
I was at 9, but I can't remember why we didn't go to 10.
Right.
Like,
the tornado was definitely a wild time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think we were at somebody's house for that summer.
There was also there's one other part of that I do know that was people were just, it felt like for years we're talking about, was a Dose party, and I believe it was in a parking garage.
Oh yeah, 393 King.
And that I believe it was Glod played at it, and maybe it was either Glod and Dan or Glod and Czech. I can't remember what the lineup was, but that party also people. I remember it's funny that these parties still decades later are standing out, and I wasn't at any of these parties. The CN Tower one that you missed out on, I was there.
Not to say that today's promoters aren't creative, because they are. They were just, today's promoters don't have the leeway that the promoters in the 90s had. Because everything is regulated and mainstream now. So
also exposure, right?
Right.
I mean, it's not like you can go and you talk to a 6-year-old and say rave, and I think they're going to look at you like,
yeah. Well, that's what I mean.
Right.
Because of the mainstreamness of it, and also City Council has already signed off on various legislations on how we can party now.
Right.
They're not left with the same sort of creative, what's the word I'm looking for, diversity that they had in the 90s. So you could look at a building that was empty and just be like, and start dreaming. You know, that parking garage. Think about that. If you look at a parking garage today, are you thinking party? No, because you have to go to the city and be like, I need $1 million in insurance. I need this, I need that. You went to that owner of that building, said, here's $2,000. I'm going to come with my sound system on a Saturday night. You look the other way while I do my thing, and then I'll clear it all out clean on Sunday. And then, sure, the guy's building sitting empty, so he would take the money. There were people all over the city at that point doing that, because it was shifting from those empty warehouses. They were sitting there empty, and then they get torn down, and buildings go up. That isn't available now. No. To that extent. It is to some degree of the smaller venues that are being, I mean, you're going to see it, I think, in the bar way, whereas, you know, like West College, some of those venues were completely decimated by COVID. You're going to see them picked up by the one-night promoters that'll go in, here's some money, I'll bring my little sound system in, my crew, have this venue for one night. That I'm looking forward to. Is that sort of 90s feel again, like you were saying earlier.
Which is what we were talking about, going back to the meatpacking district right now in Toronto with all the warehouse spaces here that are now doing things. And so I wanted to ask you.
There is that opportunity for that, you're absolutely right.
Is it feel weird to be back in this neighborhood? Because this isn't the first time you were in this hood, right? Because back in the day, speaking to people that grabbed warehouses, the entertainment network,
Well, they were the, like I was saying yesterday, they were the $5 promoter. Everybody else was in, like, more established venues that have been used before. The 318 Richmond Street, Warehouse, Government Complex. Those were $20 events. You'd pay your $20 ticket price or $25 at the door. Len and Joe were revolutionary in charging $5 to $10. That was it. Like, it was an economically depressed time in the 90s. We didn't have a lot of opportunity. Minimum wage was pretty low. Our fathers were losing their jobs. There was a recession. So a $5 party was appealing to me. I could not really afford to go to the warehouse every weekend. I could go to the East Base every weekend though for $5.
Wow.
I think there's an opportunity for that right now because of the economic devastation of the last 2 years. People do want to still have a good time. And what I'm seeing is $30, $40, $50 cover charges at some of the clubs and some of the venues. So that's prohibitive.
I mean, at the same time, I mean,
they do need to make the money that they've lost over the last couple of years.
I wasn't thinking about that. I wasn't thinking about the catch-up. I was thinking that it's what you were talking about before, is that everything now is regulated, that the exposure is out loud, things are different, the awareness is an all-time high. And so you can't just go to a parking garage guy now and be like, here's $2,000. Because you'll say, well, he's going to be like, what do you mean you're bringing a sound system? You have DJs playing? As soon as you say that, he's like, I don't want $2,000, dude. 10, I want 10. Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, and then all of a sudden, you can't do the $5. Right. And then I mean, back then, I mean, I feel like anyone was just happy to be heard, so they would show up and just play for free. But I mean, you want to respect the talent that's playing and at least throw them a couple $100, right? Because of their time, right, and energy.
And it is no longer something low cost. To be a DJ, it's not. I mean, it's expensive. The gear's expensive. You used to be able to get belt-driven turntables for $100 each, and just go buy some crappy vinyl for 25 cents, and actually play. You have to have, at the very least, you have to have some pretty decent credit to go and get some turntables these days. You know what I mean? They're what, $3,000 per deck. Even the decks we used to use.
What right now?
$1,500. Yeah,
but I'm not about the CDJs. I don't have to be. I'm lost. I was talking about, like, I think there is a new 1200 that just came out, isn't there?
Yeah, I think they're, what, $1,000 each?
Are they now?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah, the new one, the MK7, but it's not club ready. I played on it, and at a certain decibel level, the whole table hums, and it plays right through the speakers.
What the?
They didn't make it metal. They made it plastic.
Who greenlit that?
I have no idea, but it's not club ready.
Someone's getting fired.
You have to isolate them completely, and good luck doing that in the club.
Right, with monitors. Yeah. I mean, this was always a problem anyways, regardless. I mean, I've talked about this on the show, on hype moments, if a record would break down or go super quiet for a second, I'd lean right into the cartridge and yell into it. And fucking hell, it would pick up my voice, right?
Or I'd do this on the deck.
You definitely would hear it.
Have Jeff Milligan.
That dude, honestly, that dude's a legend in the city. I feel like,
I only have memories of him. I honestly haven't known
He
Jeff
works
the
for
last-
Ableton now, doesn't
I know
he?
he does, I know. But I've talked to him a couple times over the last 20 years. Like he went to Berlin and just started a new life.
Yeah, literally.
So yeah, like the conversations I've had with him have been hilarious. And I don't know if he's changed much since.
God, we got to get
then,
that guy on the show.
I would, because his perspective just on everything is fantastic and always has been.
In my opinion, DJs have always had to juggle a variety of tasks to make it happen. You were talking about your day job, right? Mm-hmm. And today it feels to me like those tasks have quadrupled.
Yeah.
And that those redoubled efforts have little to do with music. And the idea that an artist could express themselves via their music has passed, in my opinion. What effects do you think that meme culture and TikToks have had on the dance floor?
Well, I think we were lucky in the sense that we got to perform at a time when people really in front of us were just listening to the music.
Okay.
You could be in a dark room with a single laser light, everybody with their eyes closed, and they were just listening. That shifted at some point. I don't even remember when. I think it was like 2000, 2001. Gigs started to become hard to get if you weren't more animated as a DJ. If you weren't dancing along with the records. There was a conversation going on that the DJ looked boring just sitting there with his head down, beat matching. So the performer then sort of slowly started to take over, and anything that's performance-based is always going to be visual-based. So yeah, that's just the evolution of what we've done. We just happen to be lucky enough to live through a time when you could be as creatively open as you wanted. You could still do that amongst your friends, your fan base, the people that are really there for you. But yeah, when you're talking about performances and people paying money for performances, it's a different game. I don't know that we'll ever get back to just listening. The visual is there, and you have to address it.
DJs with microphones in their hands, yes or no?
Always been a problem for me. That's an MC.
Okay, so
it's a master of ceremony.
So why has it become ingrained into what's happening right now, especially in festival culture?
The performance aspect.
I feel like also this is a USA thing.
Yeah, but I mean the US has always had that P.T. Barnum aspect to all of its culture and every aspect of performance there. So it's
circus.
Yeah, a bit of a spectacle, a bit of a circus, loud, brash. That's just the U.S. That's why you love them, right? That's why I love them, anyways.
Because it's
outrageous. Because of the outrageous spectacle. You don't
right.
really see it anywhere else on earth.
Wow.
I don't and it was born there.
I felt that there was an emulation want from the U.S. trying to emulate what was happening in Europe. And
yes.
I don't know if
without
that
actually being European, though. They didn't want to really, Americans politically and historically don't want to actually emulate Europe, but would like to participate in the things Europe enjoys, right? They want to be solely American and be seen as American. So they'll adopt pieces of it, but they won't fully copy. I've noticed that with a lot of things that they've done.
Right. I'm just saying, for example,
it's an individuality.
If we were to pull up a lineup right now on screen, right, and I'm not ready for this because I'm flying right now, but if we were to pull up a lineup of a massive festival from anywhere in Europe and put that up against, for example, a massive festival that's happening in somewhere in the United States, these lineups are not the same.
No. But you have to credit the U.S. for dubstep.
I've been talking about this. It's the biggest genre of electronic music.
Yeah.
People will tell me, no, I'm crazy. I'm like, no, I'm not.
No, it's huge.
It's dubstep.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's absolutely the champ right now.
I don't like it.
I love it.
But that's what I mean. I'm just taking the antithetical point of view. If you want to be a critic, be a critic.
No, it's okay. We can disagree.
You have to recognize the sheer size, scale, scope, and popularity of that music. It just is. So, and that's a different beast.
Right.
So the two completely different likes
right.
in what Europe likes and in what America likes.
Right.
And that's, again, American individualism. They will always do something slightly different than what everybody else is doing.
So I'm leaning this way because there's irony in what I'm saying. The irony is that dubstep came from the UK, and right, this was definitely a European thing, and
Wasn't
now
it an extension of drum and bass, like just a sort of like a knock-on extension of it? Not.
I don't know. Maybe.
Like I thought it was. I thought it was drum and bass sort of slowing down those producers, just slowing down the beats, making bigger bass lines, and
I
just
felt
making
like it was
wider.
hybrid hip hop, metal drums,
Yeah.
and then sustained saw notes for a second. It's not now, but
No, but it was, to me, you look at who was promoting it and dancing to it at the time.
Right.
It was really popular. It sort of shifted from like big room to dubstep. So yeah, big room had a lot of hip hop elements and breaks in it, but also very house driven. So yeah, house is born in the U.S. It makes sense that you take house, hip hop, and like hard electronic, throw it all together, you have dubstep.
are music promos still relevant in 2022?
I've been having this conversation with a lot of other label owners, and we're trying to figure out if promoing is actually costing us all money. Because are these DJs that we're giving these promos to, would they be customers? And are they actually having the opportunities to promote this music in a way that's translating into sales for labels? The jury's still out on that. Some label owners say yes, some say no. Mm-hmm. I don't see, to me it's neutral. Some releases you see a lot of activity on promo, and other releases you see nothing, but it doesn't really depend on the quality of the song. It depends on who's home checking their email, so it's marginal. I don't know. I have no idea whether that's actually something that's valuable to us anymore.
It's definitely it's a tough question. It leads me actually directly to my next question, which is, does charting matter as much as a playlist edition?
To the younger guys, charting seems to be the ultimate thing.
You talk about the new gen of DJs?
The new generation of DJs,
they want to be
chart,
on,
and if they don't with you, they won't submit again.
Okay.
So it seems for them to be almost like a CV edition. They want to be able to say, this track hit
right,
such and such on Beatport or TrackSource. And
but I would say that's for almost any generation, that CV hit you're talking about. Reference.
Yeah, but just being released for us was like just having the label send you that contract saying, you didn't care after that. Like I didn't. As long as
you felt
somebody
like you
else
walked
liked
into
my
a new
music
room
that was actually going to sell it. To me it was like opening a door and walking into a brand new club. Because of the popularity that you speak of and the mainstreaming of it, they don't feel that way today. There's a new bar that's been set for that, and that would be like a festival gig, I think. So label charting is important to them, but it's to step up to that festival stage.
Was this not the path, the pyramid scheme path of the DJ, which is that you would find a label that you enjoyed, that you were playing music with, but there would be the top guys of the label, and that if you released your track with that label, those guys would play the track. And then if they played your track, then you were able to go ahead and get that into more releases with other prominent labels that were laterally connected, that would eventually lead to the gig.
But what people don't talk about there was the Payola system that was behind it.
Which Payola system are you talking about?
Well, that people were actually paying DJs to play those records. And keep them in that whole label.
This is like 1950s, like Wolfman Jack you're talking about, or are you talking about like today, dance floor today?
Well, no, DJs were paid to play promos even when you and I were coming up. Like Payola was a thing still then. You would actually hire a radio DJ to work for a label. So yeah, there's money involved.
Pay to play.
It's always an aspect in our industry.
What else is it infected?
I would say the whole ticketing aspect, making a DJ sell 25 tickets to play an opening slot is a form of payola.
Right.
Why? Why don't you see him as talented enough to play that hour?
Right.
Because that's all it should be, right?
Right.
Is you're good enough to play that hour. You shouldn't have to sell tickets. You have promoters and other people to do that. But that's just the reality of the world we live in now, is that a DJ is now expected to sell
Why
tickets.
did that shift happen, do you think?
I don't know. That's the conversation, a room I wasn't in. You know what I mean? Like, no, if I was in that room, I might have been like, that's a bad idea. But maybe not, because I've never been in a position of owning a venue and having to fill a venue. So maybe if I saw it from that point of view,
right,
I'd be able to see things from that point of view.
That's a great perspective.
Yeah.
I'm with you there.
At this age, I'm not going to rag on venue owners because I have no idea how hard that is.
Right.
It's got to be difficult.
100%.
Consistently pack your place full of people every week.
Right.
You know, and sometimes with the same people playing the same music. Like, how do you
Reinvent.
Yeah, how do you reinvent every week?
Right.
Every
Keep
day?
the hype up.
Yeah. I mean, we know how to do it on a weekly basis, but they got to do it sometimes 3-4 nights a week. Mm-hmm. And that's, yeah.
Are mixtapes relevant in 2022 and beyond?
I don't know. If you have an audience, yeah. If you don't, you may want to wait till you get one, because it is a lot of time. It takes time to put a set together. It takes time to select those tracks. You're paying for them. Depends on where you're at.
Are you still making them?
I am, but more just for myself. You know.
You don't use Mixcloud?
I did up to a point. I didn't really get into the streaming over the course of the last couple of years. I actually turned a little bit internal and slowed down on the music and became more involved in my building community. So completely separate to music. I don't know. I'm older. I have to state that I'm pushing 50 years old at this point in my life. There's some things I just won't start. And I don't know if live streaming to Mixcloud is going to be something that I pick up on, you know, going forward.
Right.
I do still put sets up on SoundCloud. I put one up last month.
Is SoundCloud letting DJ sets happen now?
Yeah, they always have.
No, wasn't there a moment where they were taking stuff down and they were?
Well, yeah. I mean, if you were putting up stuff that wasn't released yet and in your mixes, and then they were flagging sets for sure. And I know that Universal still flags, but I mean, I don't download a lot of stuff from Universal Music.
No, but you'd be surprised what they own, right?
They own a lot of things.
Yeah,
they do.
They
own a lot
yeah.
of commercial labels that you wouldn't.
No, I'm with you for sure. There is. Yeah,
I guess I'm just careful. Maybe I'm playing obscure stuff nobody likes. I don't know.
So, what are the politics of dancing?
That is the great question, isn't it? Depends on what city you're in and what country you're in on any given Saturday night. And that's been a lifelong journey of mine to try to figure out what's what in that regard. I don't have an answer for you. It varies from person to person.
So I follow you on social media. I don't do a great deal of scrolling on any of the apps, but Twitter I do. And I set myself with I call it 5 minutes or 20 thumb scrolls.
Yeah.
And I feel like because the algorithm is now like it's aware on where you're pausing with your thumb.
It is, yeah.
Can we throw something up on the board for a sec real quick? So when if you stop with your thumb and you pause on some, your camera's interacting on your smartphone with where you're at on the screen, so you're capturing your iris, be like, okay, I'm reading this right now, and that sends the data back, and this is how the algorithm or part of it works.
Yeah.
And I'm
right.
aware of a 1.5 of what the fuck I'm talking about.
Yeah.
So here on Twitter, you wrote this. I grabbed this shot because I thought to myself, this is a giant statement.
It is.
So I'm going to read it. So it says, not to mention the nepotistic nature of factor-funded groups and individuals who supply the Canadian content, incestuous juries, friends on top of friends being selected for grants. This year's Junos has at least 4 jury selection members up for awards. Nice, eh?
Yeah.
What go? I mean, each line I've got questions on each line.
Let's take it apart.
All right. So what is the nepotistic nature of Factor?
First, I will say that I've never received a Factor grant or ever applied for one.
Okay.
I have a problem with that agency in its sense that once people get onto those juries, they seem to select nothing but their friends from the submissions that go to Factor for award ceremonies like the Junos and things like that. So you have a collection of people that have been receiving money for years and years and years, and to me the essence of getting a grant for music should be for startup, for your first album, not for your next one, your next one, your next one. Once you're commercially viable in this country, you should not be receiving government money to make your music. That's just my opinion. That's the first.
Interesting. Okay.
I just fundamentally disagree with people continuously going back to an organization.
Maybe
that
one
is
or
supposed
two
to get
albums,
them-
but on
get
album
them up
5 or
on-
6, right, when stuff is the wheels are turning.
Right.
The wheels
when
are turning.
you've already been commercially viable, you've already been to the Grammys, you've already been to the here, you've already played, massive
Right.
stadiums and stuff. Why is the grandmother from Timmins, why is her tax money paying for your career?
Okay.
It just doesn't make sense to me, fiscally in a political way at that point. To me, it has nothing to do with music then. It's I don't know what you're doing then. You're keeping an ecosystem going. And that's
No,
the second part.
I'm there. So
juries-
how about this then? Incestuous juries, friends on top of friends, being selected for grants.
That's what I mean.
This is
Like, somebody gets onto a jury, they turn to their, I know 3 people that make techno. It becomes unfair at that point. There's no wider submission process to that jury. It becomes I know somebody, you submit. I know somebody, you submit.
Without throwing anyone under the rug right
I'm
now.
not going to mention
Yeah,
a
I'm not
single name
going to ask you for the name,
because-
but do you
because
know people
somebody-
receiving grants that helped spark inside these feelings that you got? Do you know people that
this
are
comes about-
benefiting from this type of action?
I saw a very blatant example of it in, I guess, about 10 years ago. And I won't mention who
No,
it was,
it's
but
not. That's not the.
They're still working. They're still receiving that annual grant money, and they've already made awards. They've already made it. There definitely are.
What about this last line in this tweet? This year's Junos has at least 4 jury selection members up for awards.
Yeah, in various genres. It's again, when you have a nepotistic organization, as I see it, it's not coincidental that somebody's friend of 20 years is now up for an award. I have a problem with that. I have a real problem with that.
Do you think that if you are part of either the jury selection or if you're working with the Junos, that you should be exempt from receiving any type of?
For at least that year and probably the next one.
Is it because do you feel that the idea would be corrupt? If
There's just too many opportunities for corruption. Even if there isn't corruption going on, and I'm 1,000% incorrect by what I've said here, the visual aspect of it appears to be corrupt. Like the whole thing appears corrupt. So that's going to keep people from actually, musicians from actually submitting to it. That should.
Is this the first time that it's been like that, where there's been people
like I
that
said,
are behind the scenes on the Junos that are also in the?
I'm sure there are years that are better than others. I'm sure there are years where you have juries that are a little bit more open and a little bit more honest, because it would depend on the person, right? It's how we do it. I would like to see a blind system where you don't even know who's a part of the jury selection system, and then you can only do it once, and then you have to wait 5 or 6 years before you can be selected for it again. Okay. And maybe it's done through, say, like a SAG organization, a Screen Actors Guild. You maybe have a musicians guild where just by being a member of it, you're automatically selected for jury duty, like you do when you're a citizen of our country. Then it's a more blind, more fair process. Then every musician in Canada becomes part of that process.
Is that another level of bureaucracy that the Canadian music scene needs?
I don't know if it needs the one that it's got now. Are we being better served by having a funding bureaucracy in place that's basically there to say you are worthy of being funded for your music and on you go? Should it not be a little bit more free market based on the individual's willingness to sell their music or produce their music or be involved? To me, it feels like a whole ordainment process where you have to just be on the in. I've never been on that in. I think that might be where this comes from. And I don't know. I probably put myself on the out by saying things like this. It's I hope by saying stuff like this, I hope that somebody somewhere sees it and is in a position to make it a little bit more fair. And maybe one day I'll get to a point where I'm actually standing next to somebody that I can go, can you make this a little bit more fair for everybody? Because I've heard from artists that have been rejected by these processes, and they wonder why. It's like, their music is amazing. They should be promoted as Canadian. They're a Canadian musician. They're Canadian talent. Why does it have to be like the same selections over and over? You see it at certain celebrations that we have of our country where the same artists are being chosen again and again and again and again and again. And it's like, okay, well, there's a new artist out there that maybe your jury isn't selecting because they're just so used to saying that one. And yeah, that's I get frustrated and say stupid shit like that.
So what is it? Why
I
is
suppose
there a...
there's a closed section of the Canadian music scene, and you have to go through that selection process to be selected for. You know what I mean? Like it just doesn't make sense to me. It should be the people that are deciding, like your fans, a collection of the industry that's deciding, like people buying the music, people enjoying the music, not a couple of execs and their buddies. Like it just doesn't make sense. Or somebody connected to a politician that has access to that grant fund. That doesn't seem like a fair process.
Deep thoughts, man.
That's all. That's a political thing, and it might be keeping me out of a certain section of the Canadian music scene, but I sleep well at night knowing that I'm not taking grandma's money again and again and again and again. I'm trying to actually get out there to the world. And in the last 5 years have done okay with the label that I started. It's hard though. In Canada, it's hard to start on your own. You do have to have secondary income or somebody helping you. Because you got to work here.
All of that has led me to this question. Electronic music gatekeepers. Good thing or bad?
Always bad. Define gatekeeper though. Because I could be one, you could be one, somebody that's been there for a long time. I don't see that person as a gatekeeper. Are you holding on to something that you're not allowing other people to access, that you're only letting a certain group of people to access, and you're not letting it grow? That's a gatekeeper.
What would an A&R from a music label be?
Hopefully a talent scout.
Okay.
You know, hopefully somebody that's interested in quality and craftsmanship, and I guess now performance, and not so much what can you do for me, because I think that's a gatekeeper feeling, is what can you do for me? Well, you should be looking at it as this music is doing it for me, so I'm going to promote that. That's when I look at A&R, that's how I look at it. I don't usually look at the person, and I've kind of been screwed by that a couple of times. But I look at the music, like just look at the music. That's all I really have to say about that is, depends on what you define as a gatekeeper. Somebody that's been in it a long time, contributing a long time, that's positively been making music, throwing decent events, not causing fights in the middle of the street, you know, not bringing negativity into the scene. That's not a gatekeeper, that's just somebody that's built, you know, an establishment, a brand. Would you call Coco Chanel a gatekeeper, you know, in that sense? No, you call her an artist.
Did concert culture elevate or demote the electronic music scene?
In some ways elevate, some ways demote. And again, depends on the person. What are you doing this for? Are you going for the spectacle, or are you going to escape? I think for the people that were going to escape, more added spectacle made it a worse experience for them. I think people that were going for spectacle weren't getting it, and then got it with the concert aspect. So it depends on who you were and why you were going.
Nice. If trance music is the gateway to entry in the scene, what would be at the exit?
Do you think trance music's the gateway?
Absolutely.
Really?
Yeah.
All right, I'm not going to argue that point.
No. Go ahead if you wish.
I might disagree. I would say house. I would say house, yeah, because, I mean, if we're going to pick a baseline of music that everybody listens to, would it not be pop? Just like worldwide.
I mean, I want to say people, as soon as something becomes obviously super popular, it becomes pop. But there's a lot of music that is being released now that ends up as pop, but it's not pop music. I mean, that could be hip hop, it could be dance, it could be house music, right? I mean, I feel like on a widely listened level, on a popular level, hip hop and rap is king. Yeah. And then on an, I guess if you were trying to be alternative or underground, it's bass music, dubstep would be that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, okay. I guess I look at it from the mainstreaming of the radio. Maybe I'm old. And pop music. So you look at pop on our radio stations in North America, and it's gone from being more like rock-oriented pop of, you know, soft rock of the late 80s to hip hop in the 90s to more R&B 2000s to the Britney Spears, and then into almost like an electronic phase. 2010, Justin Timberlake was making straight up house music. I'm sorry, but yeah, I look at it that way. So the mainstream to me is pop, and then its incarnations, its changes indicate what's going on in the underground. So I would say house has been the one that keeps feeding into that mainstream more often than not. So I would think house would be the gateway, because you're just hearing more of it in pop. But I mean, if trance is, then what is house to me? You know what I mean? What is house to everybody else? I don't know. It's such a subjective thing because you're talking about music and individual taste, right? So.
Okay, so I know that M5 has released a lot of techno music.
Yeah. What you would consider techno.
All right, or at least, or maybe what the staples of techno would consider techno.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right. So, right now, is trance techno?
Yeah, I guess so. I guess it was over the course of the last year with Age of Love hitting the top of.
Okay. Everyone's
the remix of Age of Love.
Right, Charlotte DeWitt
for as many weeks as it did. Yeah, I guess you're right. Yeah, 100%.
Okay. So how do the genres get separated now?
Oh, jeez. Well, looking at how we have to submit them as a label, there's literally 100, so it gets crazy. And I think I've given up trying to define what's what and just put it into like techno and house and let Beatport decide. I used to try to, and the Beatport would change it on me.
Right.
So I really just at this point, if it's above 130 beats per minute, that's techno. Anything below 128, let's throw it in the house and see what Beatport says.
There's a submission gatekeeper over
there is,
Beatport?
Yeah. If you submit everything 2 weeks before, like you're actually supposed to, you should be submitting 6 to 8 weeks before. But anyways, if you get it in there 2 weeks before, it does hit a desk, and that person does quickly listen to see and check it, make sure everything is correct, and then if they disagree with you, your selection.
Do you think that human at Beatport has a chart on their wall or something like that? There's a checklist. They're like,
I want to know. As a label owner, I want to know.
You want to see the checklist?
I really want to know that question, if that is true, because I feel that. I feel like it is, because I've submitted things into the melodic house and techno, and they're like, no, deep. You know, that's minimal deep, and you're like, okay, I didn't hear it that way. So yeah, again, individual tastes and their own likes. I don't know where the genres are at this point. Is it 4/4 and above a certain BPM? To me, that's techno.
Okay.
Is it 4/4 and below a certain BPM? To me, that's house. Is there a break element? That's breaks or drum and bass. I try not to go any further than that, because I end up in like glitch and trap and all these other things. I have no idea. To me, trap is just dubstep, is it not?
No.
No. See, like again, old man, shake my fist at the sky.
I would say trap is more relatable to instrumental hip hop.
Okay. It has a very booty bass feel to it. Like, to me, it's very southern, like southern U.S.
Right.
Atlanta.
Right.
I love booty bass.
Yeah.
It's one of my favorite genres.
Okay. So typically, we're going to put you in the hot seat right now. Typically, what I like to do is ask people what their top 3 favorite records would be. But I feel like it would be better to highlight what actually you would be really aware of. I'm not saying you wouldn't be, I'm saying that's wrong, but more relatable to you, which is, so my question is, what are the top 3 M5 releases for you?
Oh, for me?
I mean, you could either include what sold super awesome, I guess that's one way of going it, but just overall, maybe even a record that you're like, holy fuck, this is going to be huge, but...
I love them all like they're my babies.
Okay.
I do. Like, every single one that comes in, I'm like, it's my child. Some kids don't perform as well as others, in school. So if I'm going to rate that, it's by what a track did when I played it for an audience, how the audience reacted. So it's not the #1 track that's #1 on our Beatport, like Angel's song. I love that record, but no, it didn't do well. When I would play it for people would just like fall flat. I'd sit at home and listen to it and be like, oh, this is amazing, but play it for an audience and they weren't going for it. I would say anything that Wayback has submitted to our label, the group Wayback from the UK, which is John Slater from Rose Tinted Anna B and his production partner, Robert Sewell. Everything they've submitted has made the dance floor just go bananas. So God No Love, which I had Flipside and Chris Vench remix as Revito and Nolan. That track, probably the number one when I play it, just because like people go absolutely bananas. Number two would be a guy named 9 Bar, James Rogers out of the UK. Johnny Cruz remix of him, a track called Lover. And again, Johnny Cruz passed away like last week in Puerto Rico, so we're still feeling the loss from him. His track, every time I play it, tears. Like it was just such a well-produced record. He did it in a week. Yeah, number two for sure. Number three, I'd have to say Spanu. What Are You Waiting For? By Fame Diet, Jason. Simply because I've known Jason since I was 19 years old. Jason got me into this music pretty much. Took me to all of his gigs when he was playing as DJ Shine. Destiny 7, 8, 9, all the E events. And I've just always wanted to produce a record by him. That was the first thing I was able to actually produce by him. So I just, it's a milestone for me. That's two friends that have known each other for 25 years coming together on a project where we never had before. So yeah, that's 1, 2, 3.
Thanks.
No problem.
If we want to go ahead and check out M5 Music and the stuff that you're releasing, what you're up to, best places to do that would be?
Probably Beatport. If you just hit M5 into Beatport, you'll see the label right away. The entire catalog's there. If you want to go to the website, you can go to our Instagram. Through there, it's a portal. So
website coordinate is?
www.m5records.com.
Awesome sauce. All right. And listen, that's been our time.
Beautiful. Thank you for having me, man. I hope I didn't upset you with the Junos comments.
No. There's no right or wrong answer, really. I guess maybe there is. It depends on who's digesting it. You know, everyone's got a different level of sensitivity onto themselves and what they think and what they're feeling. For me, everything is a discussion.
Yeah.
I roll in here. I've had super strong opinions on something, and then by the time the episode's done, and especially I spend my own time going through everything what was said, you know, trying to smell the roses from the conversation, if you will. And I've had my opinion changed more times than I could shake a glow stick at right here, you know, on the show, because I sat down with someone else and I don't know everything.
Yeah.
I don't even know half of everything.
With me, any negative comments on music and any negativity that I might put forth comes from a place of extreme love.
Yeah.
I know we can all be better. Like, I mean, at any point in time. So if I'm criticizing something, it's because I feel like it can be made better for everybody. And that's it. Like, there's not just 20 people making music in this country. There's thousands and thousands and at different levels.
Right.
So anything I say that's negative or viewed as negative would be constructive criticism to try to make it better. Hopefully people see it that way.
Thanks for your time, man.
No problem. Thank you for having me.
My name is Jello. This is Utility Room. You are absolutely fucking awesome. Thanks for tuning in. We're going to see you next week. Thank you very much for watching. If you've had a great time, and I hope you have, there's more awesomeness right here. Jump into these episodes. You know you want them.